All right, welcome to News 6 Extra. I am Christopher Heath. It is Monday, August the 4th. If you notice, I'm in a different seat today. I'm over here at Matt Austin's desk, surrounded by more Florida State Seminole stuff that I'm really comfortable being near. Of course, I went to North Texas, so, what do I care? But for weeks, we've been promising to get Kathleen on the show. Can we do that? Let's see if we can pop that up. We'll try. Oh, there she is, making her debut on the program. Okay. I'm doing good. All right, so Kathleen is here. She is going to be chiming in from time to time. But before we get to Kathleen and all that she has to add to the show, David Nazario is here with the weather and the forecast. And David, I got to tell you, the weekend was a bit of a hodgepodge, not quite as hot as it's been. We got some showers rolling through. We finally got on the other side of that extreme heat, but I guess extreme needs to be in quotation marks because we went from just being crazy, insane hot to just mildly insane hot. And now we also have the tropics starting to do things. It seems like, we got through the first 2 months of the summer without any real issues, and August is like, hold my beer.
Exactly. There's another phrase I like to use, but I'll go ahead and refrain from that. I've been told not to use it on air, but I know exactly what you mean.
Well, this is the well, now this isn't governed by the FCC. This is the internet's here. I mean, we have carte blanche. But then again, we do have ethical standards and stuff at Graham Media. So yes, you probably discretion is the better part of valor. I'll let you go.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll let a couple of those rip over on social media, if anything. But yeah, a hodgepodge is an excellent way to describe this past weekend. We've had an amalgamation of interactions with our sea breeze. We also had that big old upper level high pressure ridge dominating our weather pattern that helped to bully, whether it be the East Coast breeze, the West Coast breeze, and then to top it all off and tie it into a nice bundle, there was a stationary boundary that got stuck over northern Florida and then went on to produce a tropical storm. And now there's a second area of interest highlighted by National Hurricane Center for that same feature. I would honestly say the first 2 months of the hurricane season have been characterized more by non-tropical sources for our storms thus far, but this could be the turning point. We'll talk about that here in a moment, but first, let's take you over to the live radar right now. We're kind of following the same repetition as we saw Saturday and Sunday, although you could arguably say up near St. Augustine, Palm Coast, getting into western Volusia County, and it does look like we're starting to get some stuff near Lake Toho down in Osceola County. We're already starting to see a bit of a pickup in our overall rains, and that west coast breeze is already coming on in. You can see it moving towards Marion County, just to the south of Gainesville, as well as getting into the western periphery of Sumter County. That is going to continue throughout the day today, and then we're looking at a bit more of a robust collision I'll show you here in a moment. But let's get you some headlines first. I love to give you headlines, especially if you're watching at home. Get comfortable. So for this week, rain chances grow for a lot of us. I'll talk about that here momentarily. The heat is going to stick around. While the air temperatures themselves won't exactly drop, it's the increase in our overall rain totals that we'll see around Central Florida that'll help to bring down the heat index, what it really feels like to us, which I know is what really matters most. You can throw numbers of terms of air temperature around all day, but what does it feel like when you go outside? So the heat index is going to try to come down, but then looking ahead, that stubborn ridge is going to once again try to build back in. And I think that's not only going to pay dividends for us here in Central Florida in terms of our local weather, but for the tropics as well. Before I get into the tropics, though, let's go through a little bit more of what we've got going on in the Sunshine State. Temperature's already cranking. If you look out there over in Titusville, the feels like temp is already up to 108. Just about everybody, in fact, everybody has officially squeaked into that triple-digit threshold once again. And if you notice, the air temperature really isn't doing too bad, especially up in Palm Coast. The actual air temp is only 89 degrees, and I know 89 saying only sounds funny, but relative to Florida standard, they're doing pretty good up there. And we've been on par with what we've been feeling the last couple days. I love to bring up this graphic. It shows how much of a difference we're seeing in a 24-hour window. It's not showing you how much has changed. It's where were we yesterday at this time compared to where we are now, and we're holding steady. In fact, it looks like Cocoa Beach and Sanford are actually down a degree, which is a good sign, all things considered. But regardless, the heat risk is still going to be there. I'll take this full screen so we can really marinate in this together. Lake and Sumter County, we've got that extreme heat risk, and then closer to your major metropolitan area, Orlando, the downtown area, the attractions, the airport, we're having a bit more of that heat dome establish itself because obviously we got a lot of construction going on, a lot of roadways. We're in there driving to and about all the time, especially on a Monday afternoon. So naturally, the closer you get to interior Central Florida, it's going to feel a lot hotter. So hydrate, stay safe out there, and try to enjoy the best that you can, especially since we're in the final hoorah, the home stretch of summer vacation for a lot of us. Here's a look at your forecast highs for interior counties. Again, topping out in the mid 90s, just as we've been talking about over the weekend. You take a coast over to the coast. I meant to say something else, but hey, I guess that works. Titusville is what's going to be rocking at 94. Same with Palm Bay at 94. And then the further north you go, feeling the effects of the rains coming down. Notice that Flagler Beach is actually only expected to top out at 89 degrees. Now we'll go hour by hour together. Let's take a look at the computer models. You can see starting off first half of the day, fairly spotty stuff. And then between about 5 to 10 p.m., there you go. We're really going to see an increase in our showers and thunderstorms with a fairly impactful collision between our west and east coast sea breeze. And I'll go ahead and go back in time and draw that in for our audience really quick because I know that loop kind of went through fairly quickly. So at about 6 o'clock, I will openly say sometimes our in-house model can underdo the thunderstorms, but you can kind of get the the key takeaway here. We're going to have collision right in through the heart of Central Florida. All this area, as we go beyond 5 and 6 o'clock, you're really going to see those shadows on the horizon of the rainfall dropping, especially if you're still on your way home from your work day or school day. I know some of us out there have started back up. My summer semester is getting ready to close out, so it's kind of give and take. It depends on where you are, where you reside. Then for your hourly rain chances, you can take a look here, and you'll notice that on average, last couple days, Saturday and Sunday, we were about 40-50% of us will see the rain. Now we're up to 60. And then for the day tomorrow, that's going to get even higher. Definitely going to get even higher. Now, on to the tropics, which is truthfully my favorite part of the briefing. We're going to talk all things about that. I actually just put out a story over on clickorlando.com with an even longer debrief for you all if you want to head over there after the show. Tropical Storm Dexter continues to churn off towards the northeast. Not going to be an issue for anybody, thankfully. It's not expected to make any United States landfall. And then we're watching closely these other two areas of interest, and boy, they're interesting. Another potential homegrown low pressure right off our upper northeast coast. And then the first area of interest to come out of the deep tropics, that area highlighted in orange for a 50% shot of development. That's another tricky one. Models are very back and forth. I think they're still catching up with the fact that the background state of the atmosphere, which basically means what goes on around the tropical waves as they come off, is continuously improving. We'll take you in for a brief bird's eye view of Tropical Storm Dexter. Not a bad looking storm. You can definitely tell it's running right up against the front that originally dropped it off the coast and tried to develop it. We've seen a bit of a dissipation in the thunderstorm activity closest to the center of circulation. There's a lot of shear just to the north of it, so it is tilted. It's askew ever so slightly, which is why National Hurricane Center nor I believe this is really going to intensify that much more. Has a small window to do so, but again, it's not going to affect anybody. And then we turn our attention off the southeast coast and multiple signals. Look at that. Multiple signals out there across the Atlantic. So it definitely does seem like August is going to be busier if you were to compare apples to oranges this time last year versus where we sit now. Historically speaking, we're right on track. So we're going to continue to watch the tropics. Make sure you stay tuned with your News 6 weather team every step of the way. And then we'll close out with a look at your 7-day forecast. Note the rain chance is really climbing up and those air temperatures trying to come down ever so slightly from that extreme heat to that traditional Florida heat, to where you're still going to be cooking outside, maybe have to take 4 showers throughout the day, but hey, at least we're not sizzling,
The 4 showers is basically I walk my dogs, shower, go for a run, shower, walk to my car. I probably need to get a good shower between that because it is just. Bleh. But I will say this: looking out at the 7-day, you did have one thing in there that I warms my heart, and that is looking out at the overnight lows being at least
Yes.
somewhat where I keep my AC. That's always disheartening when I look and see it's like 80 or 79 degrees. I can't keep, my poor AC needs a vacation.
Yep. I remember you mentioning that too a couple shows ago. So it looks like we do have some good news on the horizon. Now it's just a matter of hoping that it sticks. We'll have to keep you posted on that part.
Yeah, and of course with Dexter missing Florida, we can say goodbye to all of those memes that were everywhere for Hurricane Dexter coming to get Florida.
That's very true. I love it.
All
I
right.
love it.
What's next? We got Aaron's up next. Erin, not Aaron. Aaron is the next one, correct? Dexter,
That
Aaron?
is correct. Yep.
That is
Aaron,
correct.
we have a good shot at taking that name. And then Fernand would be the F named storm, which I do think we have a fairly decent shot of seeing that over the next 10 days or so.
All right, David, appreciate the time. Thank you, sir. All right, from the weather to Orange County, where overnight a fatal hit and run crash, Cimarron and Colonial. If you're familiar with this part of Orange County, we're talking just east of downtown Orlando, very busy area. Several years back, the county went in and built a brand new overpass there, but because you have so many lanes all coming together, well, overnight, somebody in a wheelchair was crossing the road there when they were hit by a car. The driver just left. And now FHP is looking for that driver. News 6's Mark Lehman has the very latest.
At this point, FHP has very little to go on, so there aren't any details on the driver responsible. Now, all this happened here in the lanes behind me. Troopers say the man was trying to cross the street here when he was hit by a car, and that driver just kept going towards Colonial Drive. A video from overnight shows the investigation out here, and you can see the victim's wheelchair. The Florida Highway Patrol says it was just before 9 last night when a 48-year-old man from Castleberry was crossing Cimarron Boulevard outside a crosswalk. As that was happening, a car was heading south and hit the man. A witness said the driver took off, but the only details they were able to give troopers was that the car was a dark-colored sedan. The victim was transported to the hospital where he died from his injuries. Since then, investigators have been working to find out more about the car and where that driver went after the impact. Now, out here this morning, we are seeing a lot of businesses along the road with surveillance cameras, and that could be crucial in this investigation. We're working to learn more from FHP if they've been able to recover any surveillance video. Meanwhile, anyone with information about what happened out here last night is urged to call Star FHP or Crime Line at 800-423-TIPS. Reporting in Orange County, Mark Lehman, News 6.
And of course, that's a story we will continue to follow as FHP tries to track down that driver. Okay, to another form of transportation, e-bikes and scooters. You've probably seen them around, especially downtown Orlando, over at the university campus at UCF, and I've seen them over at Florida Tech and some other places as well. They're a pretty popular mode of transportation. The problem is that a lot of them like to use sidewalks and other places where people are out walking around. And so city by city, we've seen a lot of cities start to grapple with exactly how do you want to try and regulate these. Edgewater's taking this very issue up tonight, looking at possibly banning these e-bikes and e-scooters from sidewalks and public parks. Trooper Steve has this story.
E-bikes have become a popular green way to get around in cities like Edgewater, but the city is now seeing more complaints than compliments.
They're popular and it's very good for me just to get around. I run my errands and everything I need. I got a little rack here, and a backpack is all you need, but and you could go a pretty long distance. And Edgewater is, the e-bikes are going crazy. There's a lot of people on them now, and I haven't really seen any kind of problems with it.
This week, the city will take its second vote to ban e-bikes and scooters from all public parks and sidewalks, with fines that could reach up to $500 per violation.
I don't understand why they're doing that. That is crazy. Well, you take your elderly, okay? They're lucky to get to go on an e-bike and go down a sidewalk and still feel like they're part of life, They don't have much left. So why ban them?
Similar crackdowns have already taken effect in Palm Coast and in Flagler County. And in Orange County, residents have petitioned for e-bike safety training in schools after a boy was hit while riding. Edgewater's new rules, if passed, will take effect immediately, and enforcement details could be discussed again at the next Park and Rec meeting.
All right, Kathleen, if you want to hop in on this one, it is, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the e-bike, e-scooters?
I can see both sides, because if I was walking and somebody came speeding up behind me and they were driving dangerously, I can see where a ban would need to be in place. But if you're doing it responsibly, then fine, let them have their e-scooters and e-bikes.
If they're doing it responsibly. You must be new to Florida.
No.
Because I got to tell you, so those of you who don't know, I teach out at UCF and I'm there 2 days a week. And the number of times students who zip around campus on these scooters have either almost hit me or almost another student is practically every time I'm there. So, I think the issue is the speed, because they do get going pretty fast.
Yeah, that's the speed. If you're walking with a family, you're walking down the sidewalk and somebody comes speeding up behind you, that's not cool. But if they're doing it, in a nice way, I guess, responsible way, then sure, let them have their bikes.
Oh, we'll see where this goes. We'll see where this goes. All right, thank you. All right, and we will be right back. All right. All right, welcome back to News 6 Extra. I am Christopher Heath. So, a lot of the old adages that you always heard, buyer beware. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Well, they worked back when we all shopped in, brick and mortar shops. And now, increasingly, as we shop online, the same largely holds true, especially for one man who was looking to buy an RV. And he went on Facebook Marketplace and found a pretty good deal and ended up losing about $22,000 in this whole process. Consumer investigator Lewis Bolden has this story.
He thought he found the perfect motorhome online. Instead, he lost more than $22,000 to a Facebook Marketplace scheme. I'm News 6 investigator Lewis Bolden, and this week's Schemes and Ripoffs Alert, we have a warning for those who shop on social media platforms.
Figure, well, maybe I'll spend a month or two just traveling. So let's find a motorhome. Let's find an RV.
Bill Thomas says his search for an RV eventually led him to Facebook Marketplace, where he clicked an ad that led him to this website and this 2014 Winnebago. And the price was right.
It shows, if interested, email me.
Thomas got a return email confirming the price of $22,500, saying since this is a repo, the price is lower than usual, adding they do not have a showroom or inspection area and conduct all sales online.
And he says, oh, you're interested in it? Well, what we can do is we can send you a purchase agreement, and you fill it out, send it back to me, and then we can go from there.
Thomas returned the purchase agreement and was sent this invoice showing the purchase price and shipping cost. Then he was sent wire transfer instructions. He wired the $22,650 and waited for the vehicle to be delivered. At what point did you know it was a scam?
Well, when they didn't show up.
News 6 did some digging and discovered the crooks took the name of a legitimate LLC that is registered with the state, Florida Recreational Marketing, and created a website with the same name. The telephone number changes frequently. When Thomas was dealing with them, it was a 407 number. Now it's a 386 number that's disconnected. And the address listed online is for a different company.
How can Marketplace allow this to happen?
Trusting someone online, especially on a social site, you have to do the vetting.
Holly Sammons is the president of the Better Business Bureau of Central Florida. She says people assume that social sites have protections in place to prevent fraud. They don't.
Social site is not going to do the vetting for you. Just because there's a listing doesn't mean anyone has done any sort of vetting. That's on you.
She says when it comes to high-ticket items, don't send more money than you can afford to lose. And definitely don't send money without seeing and inspecting the item first.
But I've learned my lesson. If I buy something, I'm going to touch it, feel it, see it, okay?
Remember, don't fall for the scheme. Don't get ripped off. But if you do, email me at theinvestigators@WKMG.com. I'm Louis Bolden, News 6.
And that is great advice. Always be, especially when you're shopping online, be a little bit skeptical, especially if it's a website that you've never visited before, never done business with before. Thank you, Louis. All right, so when it comes to fruits and vegetables, doctors are always saying you should eat more of fruits and vegetables, especially green things. At least that's what my doctor tells me. And there's another part of this that you're supposed to wash them when you get them home, take them, run them under the sink. But how exactly should we go about cleaning our produce? CBS's Jeff Wagner learned the ropes from a food safety expert.
From farmland to store shelf and soon your kitchen, produce is a healthy choice that sometimes needs a healthy rinse.
If it's blueberries, I put them in a little strainer and run water over them.
Maybe for things like potatoes, I'll wash them and wash the skin with a brush.
What are you hoping to clean off?
Any pesticides. That's my main concern.
Amy Johnston is a food safety expert with the University of Minnesota Extension.
So we want to wash to remove any dirt and help remove any kind of residual pesticides and remove some bacteria.
Many pesticides farmers use are water soluble, meaning a simple rinse can remove them from fruits and veggies. How should we clean our produce?
Yeah, it depends on the type of produce.
For food with thin skin like peppers, cool running water and some rubbing with your hands is all you need. For firm foods with thick skin like carrots, Johnston says to add a scrub brush. Salad spinners like this one are great for leafy greens, berries, and herbs. Can you use soap?
Don't use dish soap.
Dish soaps and chemicals shouldn't be consumed, nor do they make a difference in how clean produce can get. What common mistakes do people make when they're cleaning produce?
Yep. First one is not starting with a clean and sanitized kitchen sink.
Your sink, workspace, and of course your hands must be clean before handling produce. Using a kitchen towel for drying is another mistake. Instead, use a paper towel, salad spinner, or just air dry. Lastly, hot water is good for your hands, but not for produce, since it can cause thin-skinned foods to absorb what's on the surface. Always rinse cold. Jeff Wagner, WCCO News.
You know what you don't have to run under the sink before you eat it? A bacon cheeseburger. Just saying. All right. So this time next week, kids will be heading back to school. At least most kids across Central Florida, either heading back Monday or Tuesday of next week. My kids go back on Monday. But there's a superintendent out there who's trying to make the announcements, the information, a little more interesting for the students. Jeremy Roth has this story.
Everybody. It's back to school season, and for most administrators, that means prep work, planning, and oversight. But for one super creative Southern Indiana school superintendent, it also means turning school business into show business.
School is back, all right. I tell people all the time, that I can't believe that I get to do this as a part of my job as a superintendent. My name is Mike Allen, and I am the superintendent of Evansville Christian School, but I'm also known as the Parody Principal.
For more than a decade in educational administration, Allen has written and produced elaborate YouTube videos performing popular song parodies to keep his students, parents, and staff informed and entertained.
I try to choose ones that are fun, that are recognizable, and that work for telling the story I'm trying to tell. Snow days, 2-hour delays. Snow, oh, oh, the white stuff. Christmas breaks. Christmas, Christmas break is here. spring breaks.
We could really use it.
Not to mention COVID closures.
Goodbye, COVID-19. I wish I never knew you at all.
Parent-teacher meetings.
Hello, parents, my old friend.
And even winter safety.
Slippery ice, slippery ice.
It seems no school issue, or musical genre for that matter, is safe from Alan's punchy parodies. And while his videos provide this natural showman a creative outlet, Alan says the biggest reward is the engagement with his students and staff.
It's not separate from my work, it's for my work. It's a part of what I believe is part of my role, which is to encourage and inspire and affirm.
So for now, it's back to school for Superintendent Allen and back to the old drawing board for the Parody Principal.
I looked at the building, I was finally here to settle on in for another school year.
I'm Jeremy Roth, reporting.
Definitely makes announcements more interesting. All right, Kathleen, thoughts. All right. Okay. Nice. All right. First one reminded me of Tony Christie a little bit of, is this the way to Amarillo? You can find it on the internet. It's really good. All right. Thank you, Kathleen, as always. Thank you for producing this fantastic newscast, putting all this together. Thank you to David Nazario for the weather, and thank you for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow to do this all over again. In the meantime, if you'd like to get the latest news, weather, all of that, News 6 will be on the air at 4 o'clock. Also online, if you're watching us on any of the various streaming platforms, that's where we'll be at 4 o'clock. Until tomorrow, see you then. Bye.